Hello, I'm Dylan DeGagny, and this is my second persuasive speech, problem solution speech about CTE in athletes. In 2011, 50-year-old Dave Durson shot himself in the chest to kill himself. He played for the NFL for a little over a decade, and he developed a disease called CTE, and he donated his brain to Boston University to go to research for CTE. And that's why he shot himself in the chest to kill himself. CTE is a disease that affects many people, especially athletes in contact sports. And it's caused by repeated head injuries, and actions need to be taken. CTE is caused by repeated head injuries, and actions need to be taken to prevent it. First, I'm going to tell you about CTE, what it is, how it's caused, and what the symptoms are. And then I'm going to explain some of the solutions, some of the ways we can prevent CTE, and some of the ways we can reduce the rates of CTE in these athletes. So CTE is short for chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and according to Boston University's Research Center, which I accessed today, April 17th, 2020, CTE is a progressive degenerative disorder of the brain found in people with a history of repeated head trauma. So it's caused mainly by concussions, and it's very common in athletes in contact sports such as football, hockey, and boxing. So some of the effects of CTE are, according to a study which is posted in the U.S. National Library of Medicine, posted January 2011 and accessed April 17th, 2020, the onset of CTE is typically in midlife, after the athletes are retired, and it really depends on how significant their injuries were while they were playing, or the injuries that they sustained before or after. And people tend to get angry and irritable and much more apathetic. They experience a decline in their memory and their memory capacity, and they can also develop other diseases such as Parkinson's or dementia. CTE is likely the cause of Parkinson's in Muhammad Ali, and it causes dementia, early onset dementia in many ex-athletes. CTE is also known to increase the risk of suicide and suicidal tendencies in these athletes. So CTE is a very dangerous disease, and it should be prevented at any cost. So there are a few solutions and a few actions that can be taken to try to prevent it or slow it. The first solution I'm proposing is professional sports leagues changing their rules and changing the game to better protect the players in these situations. An example of this is according to NFL.com, which accessed April 17th, 2020. They have made changes to the rules to protect the players and prevent concussions. One of the rule changes is making it a foul if a player lowers their head to initiate contact, and head-to-head contact is a foul for the player that initiated it. And they also changed the way they do kickoffs in order to reduce the injuries and reduce the amount of people just running straight at each other full force. Another way they could decrease the amount of concussions and injuries is if they eliminate the kickoff altogether and just have the offensive team start on the 25-yard line. Is a very easy possibility to prevent a lot of the concussions caused by the kickoff. Another possible solution that should go into effect is junior leagues and amateur leagues prohibiting actions that can cause concussions and major head injuries. So it's very common in kids hockey and lower level hockey leagues for them to not allow fighting and hand out suspensions or even expulsion from the league if you fight, because hockey fights are basically two people bashing each other's heads, which is a main cause of concussions and injuries in hockey. Another way that that younger leagues have been trying to slow the rate of concussions is by instituting flag football instead of tackle football. or touch football. They're much safer to the children, and they still get to play the game. Another action that needs to take effect is parents need to be more aware of the cause of the impact of concussions, and they need to be much more careful with what they let their children do. According to an article in the Washington Post, September 26, 2012, access April 17, 2020, children should not be playing football before the age of 14, and Tom Brady did not even play football before he was in high school. It's unnecessary for children to be playing tackle football, and it's just unsafe, and it leads to concussions and other injuries. So to summarize, today I explained what CTE is and why concussions need to be prevented. CTE is a very dangerous disease that completely alters a person's personality, causes brain diseases, and increases the likelihood of suicide. To combat this, professional leagues need to change their game to make it safer. Amateur sports leagues need to ban any actions that could cause head injury, and parents need to be much more careful and cautious with what they allow their children to do as far as sports go. I'm going to leave you with this question. How many more players need to suffer and die before we can fix this problem?